The San Diego Chargers gained 290 more yards than Kansas City, ran almost twice as many plays, and somehow they still found a way to lose. This is chapter 7781, October 19th, 1986. The San Diego Chargers against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. Before we get too far into this one, I want you to consider something. How badly does a team have to dominate the football game before you'd say it's just not possible to lose? 35 first downs, 512 yards, 2-1 advantage in time possession? Well, San Diego accomplished all three. Kansas City won, 42-41. Yeah, the Chiefs entered Week 7 at 3-3. They'd started 3-1, giving Kansas City some hope that John Malkovich's team might finally end one of the NFL's longest stretches of irrelevance. But losses to the Raiders and Browns had brought the Chiefs back to 500. Kansas City hadn't reached the playoffs since 1971. That's 15 years. The Chiefs had a strong secondary, dangerous special teams, and a quarterback problem. Todd Blackledge, the 7th pick in the famous 1983 quarterback draft, was still being given opportunities to establish himself. Veteran Bill Kenny remained behind him, waiting for another chance. San Diego's situation was more desperate. The Chargers had opened the season by blasting the Dolphins 50-28. Then they lost 5 in a row. The Air Coryell era was running out of altitude. Dan Fouts was still the quarterback. Charlie Joyner, Kellen Winslow, and Wes Chancellor remained recognizable pieces from San Diego's spectacular offenses in the early 1980s. But injuries had accumulated, the defense was unreliable, and Fouts was already 35. Don Coryell's team was 1-5. Another loss wouldn't mathematically end the Chargers season. Realistically, though, the ground was rushing up towards them. Kansas City needed to establish itself. San Diego needed to stop falling. And what followed was one of the strangest games either team has ever played. Kansas City struck first. With 9:38 left in the opening quarter, Blackledge found Stephon Page for a 45-yard touchdown. That's a one-play scoring drive. Time possession, 6 seconds. That was an early indication of how the Chiefs would have to survive this day. Kansas City wasn't going to sustain many long possessions. It was going to need sudden, violent changes in the game. Of course, San Diego responded in the opposite manner. Fouts led a 13-play, 75-yard march. Gary Anderson finished it with a 7-yard touchdown reception, tying the score at 7. So one team needed 6 minutes, and one team needed 6 seconds. At that point, though, everything still looked reasonably normal. Then the second quarter began eating the game alive. With 9:53 remaining, Chief safety Lloyd Burris intercepted Fouts and returned the ball 56 yards for a touchdown. So Kansas City led 14-7, right? On the ensuing kickoff, the Chargers fumbled. Kevin Ross recovered the loose ball and ran it 21 yards into the end zone, 12 seconds between touchdowns for Kansas City. And the Chiefs led 21-7, despite their offense having almost nothing to do with the sudden separation. A one-play drive, interception return, and a fumble recovery. San Diego could have collapsed. Instead, the Chargers put together another 75-yard drive. Buford McGee scored from the 1, reducing the margin back to 7. Maybe orders about to return. Maybe the Chargers would stop handing touchdowns directly to the Kansas City defense, right? No, they wouldn't. With 2:42 left in the half, Burris, again, intercepted Fouts, again. This time he went 47 yards for a touchdown. Again. 2 interceptions, 2 returns, 2 touchdowns. Burris had personally scored 12 points, defensive back, while Nick Lowry's extra points made it 14. Kansas City led 28-14. San Diego answered with a 30-yard field goal by Rolf Benerschka, and then with less than a minute remaining, Chargers rookie Leslie O'Neal intercepted Blackledge and returned the ball 5 yards for a touchdown. So the Chiefs had scored 3 non-offensive touchdowns in the quarter, and now San Diego had one of its own. Kansas City reached the half, leading 28-24. So the two offenses had spent much of the second quarter watching defensive players run towards the wrong end zone. In July of that same year, Fujifilm had introduced the Quick Snap, which it described as the world's first single-use camera. You bought it with film already inside, took your pictures, and turned to the entire camera for processing. And that feels appropriate here. The Chargers produced enough action to fill an entire roll of film. But when the afternoon was finished, nearly every surviving snapshot would show somebody from Kansas City running away with San Diego's football. The Chiefs led at halftime. Makovic changed quarterbacks anyway. Bill Kenny replaced Blackledge, giving Kansas City a veteran who once threw for more than 4,300 yards in a season. And that decision worked pretty much immediately. Burrs collected his third interception, giving Kansas City the ball deep in San Diego territory. 2 plays later, Kenny found Page for a 16-yard touchdown. Page had now caught touchdowns from 2 different quarterbacks, and the Chiefs led 35-24. So this looked like it finally might become a comfortable Kansas City victory. But not exactly. Gary Anderson capped an 80-yard Chargers possession with a 2-yard touchdown run. San Diego then drove 76 yards before Bernershka made a 21-yard field goal early in the fourth. Kansas City's lead was down to 1 point. And think about what the Chargers had to overcome. 2 Burris touchdowns, the kickoff fumble returned by Ross. San Diego committed 5 turnovers and was still 1 point away from taking the lead. Would you have trusted the Chiefs to hold them off? Kansas City's offense finally produced the kind of drive that it so desperately needed. Kenny directed the Chiefs 80 yards. Boyce Green finished the possession with a 1-yard touchdown, restoring Kansas City's advantage to 8 points. And 8 points had a different meaning in 1986 because the NFL didn't adopt the 2-point conversion until 1994. An 8-point lead, therefore, remained a 2-possession advantage. San Diego needed the touchdown, then it needed the ball again. And Fouts was out of the game. He'd spent part of the game dealing with nausea and a headache caused by a mild concussion. Mark Herman took over and gave San Diego an unexpectedly effective second half. With 3:42 remaining, Herman found Anderson for a 12-yard score. Bernershka scored the extra point. Chiefs 42, Chargers 41. Kansas City got the football back with every opportunity to finish the game. But it couldn't. The Chiefs were forced to punt, and Anderson returned Lewis Colbert's kick 31 yards to Kansas City 47. With 55 seconds left, Herman completed an 8-yard pass to Anderson. He then scrambled for another 6 yards, and a Kansas City pass interference penalty moved it all the way to San Diego 17. San Diego reached field goal range. There were 28 seconds left, and that's a lifetime in 2026. But the Chargers had no timeouts. Coryell decided against running another play. It's not going to bite him, right? Right? He didn't want a completed pass inbounds to consume the remaining time. He didn't want to risk a turnover. Couldn't spike the ball or nothing, could he? Seems too hard. Bernershka came onto the field for a 35-yard attempt. He'd already made 2 field goals that afternoon, and had converted 7 of 8 field goals that season. From this distance, with a clean snap and a clean hold, the Chargers were finally going to escape with the victory they'd spent the afternoon trying to give to the Chiefs. And that was a gentle turn. But the game refused to make it. Bernershka's kick drifted left. No block, no bad snap. It just missed. Kansas City took over, knelt down, and walked away with a 42-41 win. San Diego gained 512 yards. Kansas City, 222. The Chargers produced 35 first downs to the Chiefs' 13. They ran 95 offensive plays, and the Chiefs ran 50. Kansas City possessed the ball for 39 minutes and 17 seconds, Kansas City had it for 20 minutes, 43 seconds. So the Chargers threw for 381 yards and rushed for 131. They also received 11 catches, 92 yards, and 2 touchdown receptions from Anderson. He also scored on the ground and contributed 111 kickoff return yards. Charlie Joyner caught 7 passes for 90. Jermaine Johnson added 8 more for 91. Fouts completed 19 of 33 for 200 yards, but he threw 3 picks. Herman completed 18 for 32 for another 181 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 more pick. Together, the Chargers attempted 65 passes, and Lloyd Burris picked off 3 of them. He returned those interceptions for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. San Diego committed 5 turnovers. Kansas City converted 3 of them directly into touchdowns. And there's the game. It's not hidden somewhere in the passing totals. And it's not possession time. It's sitting right there in the turnover column, wearing a Chiefs uniform and sprinting towards the end zone. Coryell defended his decision to attempt a field goal on first down. With no timeouts and 28 seconds remaining, he believed trying another offensive play could have created unnecessary danger. And his players agreed, although I don't. Kellen Winslow said Benerska was exactly the player that he wanted in that situation. He expected the kick to go through and imagined the Chargers enjoying a much happier flight home. Benerska took the loss personally. He explained he'd been kicking from the right hash and didn't want to push the ball wide right. Instead, the kick tailed off left. He said he felt as though he'd let down a team that had fought through numerous injuries and deserved to win. Statistically, he was right. The Chargers deserved it. But football doesn't distribute victories according to yardage, effort, or aesthetic merit. Sometimes it just checks whether the final kick went through the uprights. For Kansas City, this became the beginning of something. Kenny remained heavily involved at quarterback, and the Chiefs won their next 3 games. 2 weeks after this meeting, Kansas City faced San Diego again. The Chargers led that rematch 16-0, and Kansas City came back and won 24-23 on Lowry's field goal with 7 seconds left. Eventually, the Chiefs finished 10-6, earning their first postseason appearance since 1971. Their season ended with a 35-15 wildcard loss to the New York Jets. Makovich was fired despite reaching the playoffs. San Diego's season continued falling apart. The Chargers lost at Philly the following week, dropping to 1-7. Coryell was dismissed on October 29th, bringing his transformative tenure in San Diego to an end. Al Saunders took over and went 3-5 during the second half, leaving the Chargers at 4-12. O'Neal provided one major reason for optimism. The rookie finished the season with 12.5 sacks and was named the AP Defensive Rookie of the Year. But the great Air Coryell Chargers were finished. The offense could still occasionally generate 500 yards. Fouts could still move the football. Joyner could still find the seam. They just couldn't consistently turn any of it into victories. The Chargers ran 95 plays, generating 35 first downs. They accumulated 512 yards, came within one ordinary field goal of completing an improbable comeback. Kansas City just needed 222 yards. The Chiefs survived today because Lloyd Burris intercepted 3 passes, returned 2 of them for touchdowns, and helped transform offensive domination into mathematical irrelevance. So which performance defines this game? Was it Gary Anderson producing from everywhere on the field? Was it Herman nearly rescuing San Diego? Was it Benerska's miss? Or was it Burris repeatedly turning the Chargers' greatest strength into points for Kansas City? However you answer, the final score remains almost impossible to reconcile with everything that produced it. Chiefs 45, Chargers 41. Thanks for hanging out. I'm the Wolf. Maybe I'll see you next time.